you know where the drill is? You know, or do you know where this is? And I'm always like, your father's sitting right next to you. Why don't you just ask him? Well, we knew you would know. Okay. All right, that's my stuff. All right, so let's. Thought I'd share that all with you. That's why the camera's on this side tonight.
Okay.
All right, so how is everybody tonight?
Good.
Good. We did have quite a few cancellations this evening. I don't know why, but all of the men except for 2 canceled. So I thought that was kind of unusual, and then someone else had to cancel as well. But it's good to see those of you who made it, our first meeting of the year or the season in the dark, after dark meeting. But it's nice to see you all. It's good to have you here. Today is the second to last of our theme of exploring the soul. And I know that there's a lot of topics that we have not yet covered this year, so we're going to try to delve into some of them. I also have a little activity that I'm going to ask you guys to do together with a partner. Sometimes when you're in a group of people that you know we're all here with mutual intent, it's an environment in which you feel safe that you might not feel as safe and comfortable elsewhere or other kinds of groups. So it gives us a chance to play around with some things that might be a little bit deeper than if we're just hanging out with people that we don't want them to know our stuff, or we're too self-conscious of our stuff in front of the people that know us really well. So doing experiments here sometimes helps to liberate us, and we get to find out a little bit more of what's going inside. So we're going to be doing a little something like that today as well. On 11/29, I'm doing a one evening seminar with Debbie Silber. I don't know if you guys know her, but she's a really prolific speaker and wellness coach, and she's a good friend of mine. I don't generally title topics of things that I cover with such drama. I usually always try to put some kind of happy little spin in it. But this one, you know what? I said the point is to be happier when you leave, right? But we have to call it what it is. We are seeing a trend right now where betrayal is really holding on to people and preventing them from moving forward fully. And the thing about betrayal is when you think of it, the first thing you think instantaneously, most people go to romantic relationship betrayal. And that is a big part of it because that's one that influences us the most quickly. But betrayal actually stems from far deeper and bigger places than that. It begins in our childhood, and here's what it looks like. It starts by the fact that you have the birthright to be loved and valued and appreciated by your caregivers, your environment, your family, your extended family. And in most cases, families are not equipped to be able to appreciate and value you to the fullness and the richness of exactly who you are. So what happens is you separate from your own innate ability to understand how awesome you are and how fearless you are and how happy and comfortable and safe you are in the world and how much you embrace your own skills and talents. So since we separate from that, it's a form of betrayal to not be loved for who you are when you're a kid. Okay? And so what happens is in our adult relationships, we mimic that cycle. In our romantic relationships, in our business partnerships, we even mimic it with our bosses, with our friends, and so on. So even though we might think of a big moment when we felt deeply hurt by the actions or the inactions of someone in our lifetime, what it really stems from is that stuff that started a long time earlier, okay? So what we're going to do, Debbie and I, she has one set of tools and I have another set of tools. We really want to help people just leave with tools that can help you once and for all have a really thorough comprehension of the process of betrayal and how it might limit your life to have the open and beautiful relationships that you want later on. Okay?
Where is that, Karen?
It's going to be in Smithtown. It's at the Center for... How do you say it?
Holistic Center for Soulful Living.
Thank you so much.
That's where I work.
Oh, you do? Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's right.
A Holistic Center for
For
Soulful Living.
Mhm.
Okay, and friends of mine have created the center, so it was just purely a coincidence that I stumbled upon that spot when I was looking for a place that we wanted to do it. But it's, so we should have time. So I'm just kind of like trying to tell you why I started out with such a heavy hitting, this is the title, because you guys have never seen me do that before. But it is purposeful, and we'll leave you feeling better than this title when you leave, okay? Life Sucks is the name of it, but when you leave, you'll say, life is like a bowl of candy, okay? Colt's neck is not, I think that's it. We good? Oh, Happy in 90. Yeah, Happy in 90 is my online program, happyin90.com. Just whenever you're ready to be happier than you are today, and you're able to commit the resource to go online every single day, then it's there and it's ready for you. It's basically the accumulation of what I did to go from being an unhappy person to a happy person. So it's all real. Nothing theoretical in there. It's all the real stuff that works. Okay?
Excuse me, how many minutes a day do you think?
It really, we wanted to try to really put in, like, this day should take you approximately this or that. But we found that depending on the topic of the day, how much you relate to it or how much you feel you've developed in that area, it can vary tremendously. So it could be 5 minutes, and on some days, roll your sleeve up days, you might even wind up putting in an hour, okay? And in some cases, if you want to put in 15 minutes, that's great. But if you put in the half hour, you're going to get the greater benefit of it. I can tell you there's one module in there. It is it's an amazingly transformational module. And each module is 7 days long. One module is 9 or 10 days because it's such a huge topic. And I always give people warnings in the program. When we get to that topic, try to set aside time. Try to tell your loved ones you might not be in the greatest, happiest mood every single day, because it's really one of those things where you're going to roll up your sleeve and get through some of that stuff that you've been carrying and once and for all. So you got to just say that 1 week I'm going to have to get it done, but it is really, really, really worth it. Okay? That's, I think, module like 10, so it would be in probably somewhere in the 40s, 50s days into, no, that's not 10, right? No, 70s, maybe 70 days into it. I don't know. And also, I don't tell people this, your days close if you don't use them, but we give you leeway. So even if you didn't get to something or finish it one day, you can go back and work on it. So if you start to, sometimes you'll do something in the morning and you'll find you're thinking about it all day, right? It just keeps popping into your head. It's kind of like a sign. I think I want to go and revisit this morning's topic and go into it a little bit more for myself, because there's stuff I haven't really opened up yet. All right? Okay. Thanks for asking. That was a good question, whoever asked that. And here we are. Hello, everybody. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about today, and I want to try to leave a little extra time at the end of the night to do readings, because I've shortchanged you guys on the readings the last few times. So I have everybody's name, and we'll pull them out of an empty coffee cup later. But I want to try to leave a little extra time for that tonight. But what we're going to start talking about is part of the whole theme of exploration of the soul is to understand the context of how your soul develops in this physical form, this physical manifestation. So what I'm going to do tonight is we're going to actually just talk about the process of being human, all right? Not in the context of your individual experiences, but what does it mean? Why do we take bodies? What are we doing here? What's the point? And how can I get the most out of it? When you have that level of comprehension about what it means to be human and why you chose to be human, it actually makes things seem easier in your day-to-day experiences. You stop fighting and resisting things that you had previously resisted. Comprehension is one of the greatest tools for us on our pathway to happiness, okay? So the first thing I'm going to tell you, some of this is going to sound theoretical or philosophical, and I'm sure you've heard it poetically or from great philosophers in the past. But when I'm saying it to you tonight, just understand that it's true. This is not just words. This is the truth of how we exist here. And what it is that this here, this physical manifestation of your soul in a human experience, is an illusion. It really does not exist in the way that we think it exists. It is a dream. It is a dream. It's a wonderful, it's a wonderful dream. But do you know how you have like a dream that you wake up from And you have to start to pull yourself together to think if it was true or not, because it felt that true.
Yeah.
When we return home, that's the perspective we have about this dream, okay? It's not quite as fleeting. You don't wake up that quickly and say, oh, it was just a dream, nor is it inconsequential, okay? You know, you wake up from a dream and you think it has no consequence on your reality. When you wake up from this dream, you have this full, incredible comprehension that it does affect the essence of your being, and it's incredibly consequential. So you don't minimize this dream. It's not insignificant on any level. It's a very, very, very important dream. Every minute of this dream is significant and relevant. However, when you return home and you drop the banana peel of the body on the earth floor, you remember that this is a dream, okay? And what it is that we project our energy into a physical experience. We're taking our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, and we're pushing them into what appears to be completely physical. And the reason that we're doing this is because we get to experience back the echo of our projection. And when our brain picks up the echo of our projection, we get to interpret it so we understand the power of the energy that we're putting out there, okay? And so we learn and grow so much in this forum because we get to see the consequence of our energy. We get to see how powerful we are. And that's basically what this is all about. It's this big what if game. Every single thing we do is, if I do this, what will happen? If I don't do this, what will happen? And every choice we make is a what if, because we're projecting out there these big things and we're waiting to see how it happens. So the what ifs can be empowering or they can be disempowering, but they are always what ifs. What if I go to work on time? What if I go to work on time every day? How does that affect my reality? How does that come back? How will my boss interact with me? How will I feel about myself? How will I feel in my role? How will I feel in comparison to fellow staff members, right? So you can see that the echo back of you being punctual at work is going to affect your self-perception, your interaction with others, and so on. But now suppose you want to say, what if I'm not on time for work, right? And you try it once and no one really notices. So you try it again and no one notices. And you try it again and you just keep trying it and trying it and trying it because you want to see your results. That's why you keep doing what if. And then one day your boss calls you into her office and she says, you know what, we've been noticing you've been late 17 days in a row. This is your warning, and if it happens again, you're out. Now all of a sudden you're like, well, why didn't anybody tell me, right? Like, I thought nobody really cared because I was late all the time and there was no consequence. So now you're in the driver's seat of your choice. It's not just this accidental choice, because being late really is sort of accidental, right? Now you got to think about it. What is the consequence I want based on the time I show up for work? And you know that sounds so easy, but do you have any idea how complex that is? It's going to be based on how worthy do you feel? What messages were you given about the characteristic of punctuality? Are you in a phase of needing to rebel against people that tell you that you're good if you're on time or bad if you're not? Do you need to be your own free person? Did someone squash the freedom in you so much when you were growing up that you won't be on time for anything ever, just as a way to have control of an aspect of your life? So now you're sitting here, you're not thinking like this, right? It's just like luck of the draw. You're going to be late to work tomorrow or not after your boss calls you in. But what you don't realize is how complex that what if game was up until we see what time you come into work the next day. Is it funny? Right? It just all seems so easy. Now, here's what makes it even more fascinating. If you need to think one way or another about getting in early, if you think, my boss is right. I've always been told I'm a mess up because I'm not punctual. And then you strive and strive and strive to get on time. And suppose that one day you pass a little fender bender and you actually are mistakenly late even though you strive to be on time. Now that sounds like it had nothing to do with you, right? That's not true. It's not true. It had everything to do with you. The reason you hit the fender bender on that specific day was because the universe co-created an opportunity for you to see, what does it feel like to be deemed unworthy because of a lack of punctuality? Now you have to address this. You're either going to decide that you're not worthy, or you're going to decide I am worthy, and I'm going to see how I can prove to my boss and to myself that the lack of punctuality today does not deem me worthy or unworthy. So what creative thing can I do to change this story or this version of who I am, right? You know your boss doesn't want you to run in with an excuse. I'm not being able to find the key under the bush with the bright lights on. Like we had our excuse for being late tonight. But you know, now what can I do? What can I do to get another chance? I could probably set my alarm a little earlier and prepare for contingencies. And you know what I could do? I could go in and tell my boss that. Say, I'm actually glad that we had this conversation because I understand that for the proficiency of this company, it's important that I'm here on time like everyone else, and set a good example. And I did try today. This is not an excuse, but I did hit a little, fender bender that set me back. And now I realize that being on time actually means that I have to aim to be early. And I hope that you allow me to have that growth or that moment of realizations, because I'm going to strive to do better tomorrow. See? Now, wow, that fender bender was very, very, very successful, right? But you could see other outcomes of how that could go. You just flatten out, fired. You think punctuality is be all end all because the whole world has told you it's the be all end all your whole life, right? So now you feel inferior and inadequate. Now you're fired, so you don't have a job. Now when you go and interview with another company, you feel worthless, so you don't interview well. So now this is an opportunity to figure out how you can reignite your self-love. And if you don't think that being late is a bad thing, then maybe it's time to think of a way to operate in the world, in the material world, so that punctuality is not a measure of your worth. So it's thinking outside the box. So here we talked about being late for work. Isn't it amazing how much is involved in one little tiny thing like that? It's incredible. It's incredible. Like I sometimes wonder, like this eye, I have to think too, what's the metaphor of not being able to see clearly out of my left eye? And I realized that because I had such a tough childhood, one of the things I did to compensate was I became both parents that I never had. And part of being, in my view, unconsciously, part of being the male parent to myself meant that I do stuff around the house and I work with power tools, okay? So I have always loved the lane of being independent and self-reliant and being able to do anything that a man or a woman could do. Therefore, I recognize with my eye, I wear it as a badge. I wear my self-sufficiency and my adequacy in male and female skills. I wear it as a badge. And today, with this eye, was the first time that I recognized it. I'm not upset. I'm not debilitated. As you can see when I show you all of my scars, I'm actually still proud. They are badges. I love my scars. But I understand it better today because it affected the eye, which made me think of the metaphor of what is it that I'm not seeing. Isn't it funny?
Yeah, that is funny.
And how did you hurt your eye?
I did something only a man would do. Just kidding. I decided to put the mower on mulch and go in places that you shouldn't be going without protective eyewear. Yeah, it worked out. It was fun. I love it. And I get excited by like the power of the lawnmower. I'm like, wow, I look at the pile I'm about to put the mower on and I'm like, I wonder if I could eat this. And I do this. put the mower down on. It's like, wow, look at that thing go. This is a really good mower. Like, I get excited while I'm doing it, because that's me. I'll try that at home. And what was really weird was I don't think about safety, as you guys well know. And that particular day I said, I wonder, using the mulching part of this, I wonder if I should just like put on like just glasses or something. I actually popped into my head. I'm like, oh, that's stupid. Because I don't need protection, okay? But I found out that it probably was a psychic hit thing.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, it wasn't about being unsafe. It was being sensible. It wasn't that I was afraid. It was that I was sensible. I wear a raincoat when it rains. That's sensible. It's not afraid, right? I can see clearly now. I got it. But it's so interesting how specifically things happen to help us learn our stuff and get the echo back of the reflection of what it is that we're putting out there. You know, I don't have an intention of changing. I love my badges, and I love being self-reliant, and I love not being restricted by my gender. So I'm not going to change that. But what I will do is say that even though I'm impervious to harm, I'm also allowed to make sensible choices, like, you know, wear a coat when it's cold out, and maybe wear glasses when I'm using the mulching capability of a lawnmower in a ridiculously not common way, let's say. Okay, so in this whole scheme of things, in how we project to learn, to grow, to discover, to incite new awarenesses, whatever it is that we do experience is metaphoric. One of the reasons I tied in the story of my eye and the way my eye is saying, what is it that I'm not willing to see clearly, right? When you look at the whole this to this to this to this and how this happened, it's quite clear what I didn't see until this happened with my eye, right? So what we're also wanting to understand about this reality here that we have as humans is that we also want to see that what we are experiencing in the projection and the echo back is metaphoric. So it's important that when a reflection comes back to us that feels significant or relevant or important or interesting, that we look at the details of the metaphor of how it was reflected back to us, okay? So if I had been walking through my house and something fell from the ceiling and hit my eye, it would be an entirely different message from the universe than the very, very specific way this happened. So I had to backtrack. How did it happen? What was I doing? What was I thinking? What does it mean about what I was thinking? Right? And so what you want to do is trace those steps and see what the metaphors are telling you. There are some things that we learn in school that seem very irrelevant when we're learning them. But what's interesting is you find out when you know how life works, you find out that they're very significant and very relevant. And one of those things is when you learn in literature to understand the meaning behind things like personification and alliteration and metaphor and simile. All of these uses of language and interpreting language is practice for us to interpret the symbology of what we're experiencing here, because all of this is as symbolic as the greatest of literature. And it's fascinating when you start to think about this. So I'm going to give you one more example, but as I'm giving you another example of how this works, I want you guys to think of examples in your own life. And if you have a happening that's recent or interesting, let's pass it by the group and we'll see if we can interpret it metaphorically for you. Okay? Okay. So the next one is a client was having difficulty getting a job, and the process was involved with a lot of feelings of self-worth. Every time she had an interview, she didn't feel strong enough, like a strong enough candidate. She didn't know that her communication skills were really good. And during this process, one of the things that kept happening was she kept getting flat tires, okay? So it seems like they're not at all connected. It just seems like, look at this. I don't have a job. I can't get an interview. And my tire's going flat. The world hates me. So you could get really into a self-pity fest. But that's actually not what's happening at all. It's not what's happening. Here's the interpretation. So when we are navigating our way in the world, if we are walking, it's one of the ways that we show our own power, by walking, getting one place to another. And then if we take a bicycle or we take something that gets us there a little bit faster, it shows that we have intention, we're setting a goal, we're aiming to get to a destination, but we want to get there a little bit more expediently because it matters and we like the power that we have in getting there. Now, the next best thing to a bicycle or anything to get you there as quickly as possible is a car. Most of us don't have planes and pilot's licenses, so we can't even talk about being a pilot because it takes quite a while to get down to wherever your airplane is. So we have to talk about the best thing that we can do to self-direct our lives towards our destinations is going to be driving your own car. Right? So when something happens to your car that interferes in the process of goal, destination, and movement, it's metaphoric what happens in the middle there. So a flat tire is kind of interesting in the middle of that. First of all, flat tires happen to be one of the things that don't have a huge repercussion. It doesn't cost you a fortune. It doesn't wipe your car out for a week. And also people are very, very friendly and helpful with flat tires, aren't they? Mm-hmm. They really are. People will help. I don't care if it's the State Farm truck or you have AAA or whatever it is, but people help, or people will just help on the side of the road. So while you're feeling insecure during the job hunting process, all of a sudden you get this infusion of love from a stranger that you're important enough to help just because you have a flat tire. Like, that's pretty darn cool. That's not a slap in the face. That's the universe saying, you know what, you could use a boost. The last stranger you just talked to that you thought you did crummy at the interview, they didn't make you feel like you were worthy. So let's send someone by that makes you feel like you're important. So that's the first part of it. You got to get that infusion of kind of feeling, look at this, I can't believe someone gave up their time. I feel so good that I'm important and visible enough to have this experience. But the next thing is, if you're getting a second flat tire, you might pause and think, what's going on? What's making me pause from getting to my goal in a not hugely consequential way? It's not like I had a massive car accident. We're just talking a flat tire. So what is it? And then you realize, you know what it is? I really have to work on my love of self during interviews. I have to either practice interviewing with somebody who supports me or find different techniques, maybe watch some videos or do whatever it is to help me feel really comfortable in the interviewee spot so that I can convey exactly who I am and get this other person to give me a chance to show how I shine once I'm sitting there. But if you didn't get the second flat tire, you wouldn't have even thought of that. You would have just miserably gone through these insufficient activities of interviewing over and over again and not feeling good. So isn't it interesting, the metaphor? And when you realize how purposeful it is, it takes away some of the fight, right? Doesn't it take away the fight? Why are you going to get mad at the tire? The tire is your friend. You know, don't get mad at the tire.
Tire didn't do anything.
The tire didn't do anything. The tire's trying to help you out. Accept the help of the tire. Kiss the tire. Put protective Vaseline on your lips because I've learned about protection. But kiss the tire. But it makes you stop the fight, right? And it's not self-punishing. It's not that the universe is against you. It's not that you're inadequate. It's that the universe loves you and wants you to have realizations and wants you to get past crummy things that are holding you back and allow you to break free of that stuff and move on toward the things that it is that are important to you because you deserve it. You deserve it. You deserve every bit of happiness that it is that you want. Okay? Oh, I know. I just remembered. I'll put this up on my page too. This year for the holiday party, one of the things I'm going to do is I want to put a couple. Bless you. I want to put out a couple of tables, and if you have something you make or sell or represent, bring it to the holiday party, and please bring money also, because I want you to purchase from each other. We have such skilled people in this group. You know, in and out of this room have passed, I think the last count was up to 250 different individuals have come to this meeting at one point or another. So I like people to support each other. So buy from each other if you like their stuff, and bring your stuff in and sell it. Bottom line, okay? So while we have a break, you can purchase beforehand. I won't be out in the bushes. That sounds terrible. Without a precursor to that conversation, I probably should put a little explanation about being out in the bushes before the... All right, well, take it any way you want. I won't be in the bushes beforehand, so we'll open up a little early. You can have some mingle time, get your stuff set up as well. Okay, but I think that's a great idea to support each other. So bring your stuff and buy from each other. All right, good. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, so where was I? Oh, metaphors. Does anybody have something that popped into your heads that you want us to interpret? Start here.
Yes, so I just went on a trip to Portugal. Everything is either straight up or straight down and cobblestones. And the first couple of days, I think I twisted my ankle, but I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. But for the rest of the trip, and still now, my left ankle on the inside is swollen. But I made the conscious decision to ignore it because I knew it was a metaphor of some kind. Didn't know what. I'm still ignoring it. So it only hurts when I get up in the morning and then I say, okay, I'm done with you. But it's swollen, and until I figure out what the metaphor is, it's not going to go away. So I'd like it to go away.
All right, so I think I can get this one. This was one I can probably do. However, let's see if anybody else has anything that they might want to say. This is for fun. No right or wrong answers, but let's see. What pops into your head? Because if you're thinking about it for her, then that means you're going to be able to think about it for yourself when these things happen. Sure.
All right, so everything was straight up or straight down, so it redirected you to different places on your trip, I'm assuming?
No, I totally ignored it. We, from town to town,
Okay.
pretty much every,
You stayed the course?
I stayed the course.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right, I like the way you thought, though. And if this were you in that journey, you might have changed your course. You would have known that the metaphor for the ankle was to redirect you and then be able to scoop up the new experiences on paths that you wouldn't have found. So that was really, really good thinking. Good, I like that. Yeah.
I don't know, wobbling is one thing that you do on
Cobblestone,
cobblestones are wobbling.
Oh, yeah.
no doubt.
So wobbling causing an injury, I don't know,
Yeah,
wobbling, wavering.
yeah. Wobbling, wavering. That's a really good interpretation. It's a good way of looking at it. It's uncomfortable to walk too long on cobblestone if you're not familiar with it, and it's not a way of life. So that does mean that you were precariously balanced for a reason, metaphorically. Okay? I know the reason, but I just want to see if anybody else wants to add anything to it. I know some things about Jeannie, so I have an advantage, although I also am intuitive. So.
You didn't know that.
I did find the key after all. And the poison ivy. Okay. All right, anyone else? Yeah.
I'm just a little more concrete about it, just in terms of the power of the mind to say, I'm putting it aside for now. Just aware that you have the power to say the pain can be put aside for now. Did you feel it all day, your pain, after you put it aside?
No, only in the morning and at night.
Because you decided.
Because I decided
Right,
this
so-
is not going to detract from me being able to see everything that I wanted to see.
That's really cool. That was a
So
good
I always
point.
think about it as that your mind is strong enough to say, I'm not gonna feel the pain at this time.
Ah,
It's
I like
strength-
that. That's a
the
great
strength of-
insight.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's,
Yeah, very good. Anyone else?
I can't help out, but I'm exhausted just thinking about everything that we do, that we have. I think it was much easier to just think that somebody's screwing around with us. This is an exhausting proposition.
Yeah, And I will tell you that the first time you roll your sleeves up and look at reality through this lens, it is exhausting, and you become oftentimes like self-blaming. But that really is not the point. The point is to actually see the buoyancy in it all, to find the benefits in it, to find the conversation in it, and to feel supported and not pushed down. It's like finding an ally that you never knew existed. So when I began the journey here, I had the same feeling as you, Irene, and I was exhausted, okay? And the amount of self-blame you can have in that process can be overwhelming in the beginning. That's why it's really important to understand that it's a process of the accumulation of all the stuff you carry from birth on. It's not right or wrong. It's not you're good or bad or you're flawed or you're inadequate. It's all about the energy of what you've picked up, the energy of what was taken away from you, and how that's reflected in your projection and being human. It's designed to help us make these discoveries and win back our love of self, okay? But that was a really good point, and I actually did experience that in the beginning. Okay? This is never about you being flawed. It's actually the opposite. Every metaphoric experience that we have in which the universe is communicating with us is designed to help us find something that's liberating and empowering, not something to crush us or put us down. Okay? Like let's say, again, going back to the you got fired for being late. I'm not going to say that 90% of the people are going to wake up that day and say, you know what, I really always wanted to be an artist, so screw this corporate 9 to 5. I always hated it. I'm just going to be an artist. That's a hugely liberating thing to do, and wow, you can see all that would be surrounded by trying to get people on board, trying to convince others, trying to win approval, trying to make money because you have the idea that you can't. However, suppose you really amp up your self-love and you know you're a great artist and you're not going to be brought down by the idea that an artist doesn't make a good living, right? So it really is designed there to give you freedom, freedom of choice, freedom of understanding yourself better, okay? Might be a little rough along the road, cobblestone road, but the roughness is always very simple. It only gets bigger if the universe has been trying to communicate with you something specific for a long time, and they have to get a little louder and a little bolder to try to grab your attention. Okay? All right. I know when we always hear of the metaphoric person who has a massive heart attack and dies at 55, and they were workaholic and they never spent any time with their kids or family or doing the things they loved. We think that was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. He really was a nice guy. I know he's a workaholic, but that was kind of rude, right? But that's not what happened. In reality, that individual got a lot of chances to reprioritize, a lot. They just got a little louder and a little bolder and a little stronger and with a little more emphasis until the big one. And the big one came because the universe at that point said, hey, listen, you know what? Let's say it's a he. He's really not getting this whole thing. So right now there's greater value in him demonstrating or exercising his soul's intention by leaving his body at 55 than by staying and not reprioritizing. Do you follow me? Because now we have this amazing wake-up opportunity for everyone that knew him, right? So it all works. And the guy that went home, he's happy. We're all happy when we're not in our bodies. Just being in our bodies sometimes can be rough, but it's a state of bliss when our souls are free. We're in a state of bliss.
Maybe it will have affected someone else that he knew.
Exactly.
On the same path.
Exactly.
And that person saying, no, I can't do that any longer.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Every time you hear of someone that dies in an unusual way, or what we perceive as being too young, it does take a moment for you to pause, and you do self-reflect. You do see, how does this parallel to anything in my life or my experiences or my choices? You know, a lot of people pause and double down in fear, which is silliness. That's not the intention of it. It's meant to liberate us and empower us. But it does make you take pause. It does make you take pause. So yeah. So in the end, after you play around a little bit and you find a successful way to find beautiful messages in the metaphors, then it doesn't feel like a burden anymore. It feels like you really are being buoyed. Okay? Okay.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Anyone else here on poor little Jeannie? Yeah.
I was thinking, since it happened the first day of or second day, early on in the trip, and the trip was in a foreign country where you may be walking and experiencing new things, it was a message to slow your pace down now that you're on this vacation and really appreciate what you're going to experience here.
Okay, I think, and I would have to say that in probably 90% of all cases, that would be exactly true, exactly true. I just happen to have some inside info on Jeannie, so I'm going to say it's not the whole of the story. But if it had been anybody else, I'd be like, hey, yeah, Jeannie, does that work for you? And we'd either get a nod or, an addition. But I think, what I'm going to ask Jeannie to just, I think I'm going to ask her to give you guys another insight that can help you maybe think in a different vein as well. Who were you on the trip with? And can you just tell us a little bit about how that person felt about the trip?
Okay, so this was my 35th wedding anniversary, and this was his first trip abroad, truly. So he was hesitant, but willing, and we really didn't have a game plan. We didn't go on a tour. We stayed in hostels, we stayed in little hotels, and we stayed in one nice place for the 13 days that we were there, and he was surprised how much he liked it. But he was uncomfortable going.
So you had a
Oh,
big
so it was a sympathy spring.
No, he still couldn't keep up with me.
But you know what? I think everyone started to have a little more illumination when she shared that, which is why I wanted her to share before I gave the answer. But you pretty much kind of nailed it there. It was a sympathy sprain. So what she was doing is she's bringing this man that she loves on an adventure that she's done 1,000,000 times without him. He had concern. He's feeling the digits of whatever age he supposes he is. He has one view of what the aging process is, and she has a very different view of the aging process. So what she was able to do was she was able to kind of normalize the differences between them a little bit so that he wouldn't feel like he was always in a lesser position of physicality and endurance and strength and perseverance and fitness. Okay, so she was able to level them. I don't even think a broken ankle would have really leveled them. However, she did her best to try to bring herself into a plane with him. But she also was able to model the suggestion that she should be overwrought with disappointment or sadness or ineptitude by showing that it hurt in the morning, it hurt at night, but we're still going to do our best. So she also showed him that you don't have to surrender or succumb to what you believe might be the deterioration of a body. And he got to see it and witness it and live it and experience it without any criticism or judgment of him. He just got to see it modeled successfully. So that was the whole of the purpose and all the little pieces that you guys said. So you get to see how much went into it. It's like, I don't know how the universe thinks this stuff up, but it's brilliant, right, Irene?
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
So then why won't it go away?
Oh, because you needed the interpretation tonight.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and now it's it's kind of funny. It's if you narrate something about yourself when you're trying to help another person, it's actually more effective than if you tell them flat on that they could be thinking better. So what Jeannie can do now is, in a conversation that doesn't seem at all related to her husband, is she can say, I got to tell you, it popped in my head that I'm really proud that even though I had this sprained ankle, that I was still able to do all of the things that we wanted to do. And I think I felt like a wimp my first 40 years of life, and now to see that I have this strength, I have to tell you, I really feel proud. So she's not saying anything to him but her own feelings about what she learned about herself, right? But it plants a seed. If she can do that, I can do it too, right? And it also plants a seed that there is a reward for wellness, since our culture rewards sickness, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's something heavy to think about. I'll have to do a weekend seminar on that one. Our culture rewards sickness and poor health, and it does not reward healthness and excellence and fitness. Okay? All right, does anyone else want to give it a whirl? Yes.
I was weed whacking the property.
What's wrong with you? Did you have protective eyewear
I
on?
think they were left on the counter.
Oh
It was
my!
very special. I got my stepfathers who passed. I'm like, oh, hi, Al. You know, like I know to put them on, but I think I left them on the counter.
I love it.
Maybe 98% I leave them on the counter, but they kind of come out. Or they just stay there. And I was having so much fun and freedom in weed whacking the property because it was wireless, like, whereas I didn't have to worry anymore about the electric cord.
Oh, yeah, I hate that.
Right. So I was actually enjoying like the swing and the power of how it was, you know, it was really great. And out of nowhere, my left leg drops through the earth.
Oh boy.
And oh, I'm sorry, we have a waterfront property, and it was that but out of nowhere, that never happened before. So, but the reason was the rock wall wasn't structured well enough. It wasn't taken care of well enough. So underneath, I guess, it started taking the earth out, and that's what caused it. And it's clicked ever since, and it's about 2 years ago, and it's hurt. And I was like, oh, this sounds like Fonzie and his gang going like click, 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 you know. And I just haven't taken care of it. And I was even with my friend the chiropractor the other day, and I'll hear a whisper in me like, "Get an adjustment, kid," you know, like something like that. But it was like I was completely unaware of it when I was with her. It's the oddest thing.
Yeah.
And I'll look up a chiropractor. Oh, I could go to him, and then I won't make the call, and yet the clicking is getting worse and worse.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the clicking obviously is a. Oh, does anyone want to take a crack at it? I can be such a hog. Anyone? Oh.
Oh, and I forgot to say, my intuition has been the whole time, I don't know if it's correct or not, that I just need an alignment. Like, my intuition the whole time, like, I just need an alignment.
I think you're done here. Anyone have one we really can interpret?
But I don't do it.
Take
I don't go and like, do it. I don't know why.
Okay.
Okay.
I think you've done a pretty good job in understanding it. Does anyone want to add anything? But I think we're all pretty much probably on the same page around here on this one.
Great. Good.
You all good? Okay. It's interesting that the conversations that we've already had are, led up to this. So it's not, some of the components of my eye and some of the components of Jeannie's leg all fold into it. Self-reliance, nothing holds you back. You can do anything in this world. There's no gender roles. There's nothing that you can't do. So all of that does factor into it. But the fact that the clicking has been there for 2 years, and it doesn't sound like it's really overly painful or anything, so it's not debilitating. But just the clicking, what you're doing is you're basically saying that I can power through, okay? While a lot of us have ultra sensitivities to the mildest distractions or the mildest things that happen that are wrong, and we can let them, really blow us over or knock us off our feet or stick us in bed or make us depressed or make us whatever. You're like, all right, so it happened, and I'm just gonna keep plowing through, and I have the power to do so. So nothing's really gonna knock me off my feet, okay? I might be able to make it a little bit more harmonious by getting realigned, but I'm glad to see that I am this resilient and that I don't have that weakness where I have to surrender to every little tiny thing that happens, or that it's gonna ruin my life or distract me from my bigger set of goals, okay? Okay, and also the fact that it didn't turn out to be something a little bit more major. It's good sometimes to look at it as like a litmus test of where you're at, because injuries and illness often is an indicator that you really do need quite a bit of extra love in the moment, and you should elicit it. You should try to get that from people. So the fact that this didn't turn out to be a big sympathy fest with others shows that you're pretty comfortable with your position of being loved in the world, okay? And that's a really good thing to discover, that you're pretty comfortable with that, okay? Yay, good. All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute break so you can grab a cup of coffee, mingle, get some water if you'd like, and we'll be back in 5 minutes, okay? Everyone. Good.
It's a real
Shortly thereafter, told me to follow.
Okay, kitties. Okay, so the other, this topic came up today. You know, your guides decide topics, but this topic came up in the middle of me writing a series of essays for my monthly newsletters. And I'm not going to embarrass you all by giving you a show of hands about who read this month's newsletter. So we won't do that. But you should go back and home and read it, okay? Now, but what's interesting is for the first time ever, what I know about physical manifestation in terms of why we choose to have this physical journey here, I'm putting it together in essays. It looks like it's going to be about 5 essays altogether, but there's so much information in there, and it gives you so much clarity as to what we're doing. So the first one came out last week, and then once a month from now until I tell you like all of the reasons we're here in this physical realm and what the advantages of being in the physical realm are. So when you read them and digest them and look at your life through the lens of what you read, it actually adds a lot of clarity into this thing that sometimes seems like really nonsensical, right? The heck are we doing here? It actually all makes sense. Matter of fact, being one who knows how much it all makes sense is a little weird because I live with, meaning on this planet, I live with 4 billion people that pretty much don't know that it all makes sense. And it's like, oh, guys, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. Well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. And I'm just trying to bring 4 billion people up to speed so we're all on the same page about how much sense it really. So I nailed this 20, right? I got that down. How many? All right, do the math. Frank, you do the math. I know how you were all into academics and statistics. So what's 4 billion minus 20? I'm just kidding you. All right, so as an addendum to this, the essays will give you more information about the kinds of things that we're talking about in here. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is I want to talk about 2 other aspects of how we create our reality in the physical journey through the projection of our energy and the receipt of the interpretation of the echo back. One thing is that one really fun way to see how this works that has less personal feelings kind of embedded in it. You know, when something feels too personal, or you're feeling a lack, or you're feeling inferior or inadequate, sometimes it's harder to have fun with it. But an area in which you can play with this and not necessarily feel inadequate is in your dreams, because your dreams are exactly the same as this dream. So what it does is it gives you a dispassionate view at the process of interpreting metaphors and the projection of consciousness into the design of the message. Then you can receive the echo, interpret the dreams, and what you're really doing more than anything, not only are you getting messages from guides and the universe and your soul, but you're also learning how to interpret it in the physical. It is the jumping off point to figure it out here, okay? One person came up to me during the break and said that in one of my books, The Answers, it talks about the power, I don't know if it was The Answers or Begin Here, it talks about the power of keeping a dream log. There are people who really don't think that they can remember their dreams, but when you take the moment to put a notebook on your nightstand and a pen and follow a few little instructions that are in there, it's actually amazing how I'm not going to try to say the word, how easily and readily and meaningfully you can start to record, remember, and interpret your dreams. It happens very quickly when you put your intention there. For most people, it does. And it happens so much so that after having the intention and a focus in a brief time, you might actually just decide that you got all that you can get out of it because you are remembering so many dreams, you just don't have time for this anymore because it's that prolific. But then what you do is you start to look through this dream log and you find patterns and similarities, and you also find unfinished dreams that were finished 7 nights later, or a dream that you have on the 10th could be finished on the 3rd of the previous month. So there's no such thing as time in dreams. Do you follow me? You could get the ending of a dream, and then 2 weeks later you can get the beginning of a dream. So it also helps you to step out of our way that we linearly interpret everything as having sequence and consequence, okay? So dreams are fascinating. What I recommend is if you do a little bit of a glance or study at your own dreams, don't become reliant on dream interpretation books, because I don't use dream interpretation books, and I don't use it when I'm working with clients to help them interpret the metaphors of their lives or their dreams. I just tell them what I'm getting, but I'm intuitive. I can get it right there, right? So if you dreamt of a squirrel, I don't know what a squirrel totem is. I have no idea. But what I'm going to tell you is from your guides exactly why you dreamt about that squirrel. And that reason might be in a dream interpretation book or in an animal totem book, but there's going to be 500 other things in there, and that gets really confusing. Okay, so don't rely on them so heavily, because a lot of it is superfluous and it really doesn't have much relevancy to you. So if you get stuck on a meaningful dream metaphor or noun or object, you can look it up just to try to give yourself a hint, try to get you in the right direction, but read it with the eye of, is this resonating with me? So if they list 30 things that object represents, you'll see, it will find you what it represents for you in that dream. Do you follow me? Don't try to squeeze yourself into what they wrote. Try to find what's in what they wrote as being relevant to what you experienced. Does everyone understand that? Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you're doing this, when you're practicing interpreting your dreams like that, you'll see how much easier it is to interpret the metaphoric experiences of your own life. Okay? Okay. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and this will direct back to what Irene had said earlier, I'm talking about this projection, then the echo, and the receipt back. To simplify things, I'm speaking of your energy, your projection, the echo back of what you put out there. But that's silly, because none of us live in a vacuum, okay? Every single thing that it is you project gets blended with the people that are the most consequential in your day-to-day experiences. The more relevant someone is in your life, the more their projection is going to co-create your experiences. So interpreting the metaphor back, it's not that linear. It's not just what you put into it. It's what a bunch of people put into it. And when something big is happening that has your energy in it, that means more and more people have co-created what it is that you're experiencing, the echo back, okay? A great example of this is what Jeannie did with her foot. Her foot didn't have as much to do with her as it had to do with the co-creation process with her husband. See? So now if Jeannie wanted to go home and feel bad about herself because she sprained her ankle and she's such a klutz and she, potentially ruined her vacation, she could go and feel bad about it, but she can't now because we just told her that she did a beautiful thing for her husband, right? So that's another part of it. When you see how much goes into it, it helps you to take away that feeling of I've done something wrong, or I'm not enough, or I have to change my stuff. Yeah, there's a hand of you in it, but the higher level of awareness you have, the more other people are going to show their influence for their benefit in your projection so that they can get the echo back through the softness of you, right? It's much easier to have a realization when someone is kind and loving and you're interacting with them than it is to have a realization when someone's being an idiot, okay? So understand that part too. And the complexity of what goes into everything is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, the complexity. A good example is global warming. We always treat the things that we discover on Earth or that science proves, we treat it as the whole problem. We treat it as the be-all, end-all, and then we try to backtrack to fix it, right? But the thing that we study, the problem that science reveals, That's actually a symptom of the projection of consciousness that we have collectively put out there. Global warming in itself does not exist. Global warming is a metaphoric reflection back to us of what humans on Earth are doing and thinking and feeling and believing in the way we're acting, okay? So we've created this fictitious thing called global warming. If anyone in politics heard me say this fictitious thing, now I would get a lot of hate mail. Just because I say it's fictitious doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Isn't that odd? But it does exist. The consequences of this projection that we have all created together, the echo back of this fictitious projection, is real. The consequences affect us. That's the purpose of the echo, so that you can align with adjustments to what it is that you project as an individual and you project collectively. Okay? All right. A funny thing to think about is like when two people are trying to sell a house, and one person is, really doing everything to get that energy open and expansive and beautiful and feeling really good and optimistic and free and envisioning people coming in and living here, but they're selling the house with someone that has a reason for it not to sell. What's it going to do to the projection? What's it going to do to the echo back? So the person who's doing all the things energetically that can really enhance the sale of the house, they're going to be beating themselves up. I'm not doing enough. What's wrong with me? What am I doing? But they're not considering that maybe there's some value in the partner's consequence of not selling the house right away. So it just gives you permission to not be hard on yourself. All right? Don't be hard on yourself.
Just the one thing about dreams. When you're an observer in your own dreams all the time, like, are you controlling the dream? I mean, I don't know.
There are some dreams that they play out as stories rather than as something that you're participating in, because the interpretation is more beneficial for you to receive as a viewer than for you to receive as a participant. Same as in life. Sometimes it's easier for us to be dispassionate about something that's happening on Earth because it's not consequential to us individually, right? So we might be able to observe and make more discoveries, but when it happens to us, we're so saddled by the realness of the experience and the emotions that we're having, we're able to gain the benefit, okay? So sometimes being separate helps us have an understanding a little bit better, okay? All right. Like, for example, it popped into my head tonight. I knew more than two, but I'm thinking of two. Two families that completely changed their lives after 9/11. And they both were motivated by what happened, and it helped them to reprioritize and see, of the shortness of life or the fleeting nature of life and all this. And they just ditched everything and they went out and did what they wanted to do, two different families. But what was interesting is one family had no direct connection to the experience of 9/11, so they weren't there, they didn't lose someone directly, and the other family did have a direct consequence of it. So what's interesting to see is that the same gain in your choice or your refocus can happen even if there's an experience that doesn't happen directly to you. So the more you're able to view other people's experiences and use it for good realizations for yourself, the more the universe can continue to provide you with happy moments for discovery instead of unhappy moments for discovery. So the point is to just stay in fluid motion in what you're observing around you and how those things make you feel. I'm not talking about feeling badly about them, but how can they empower you? How can they fire you up? How can they allow you to make decisions that you might be postponing? Okay? Make sense? All right, cool. Anybody have any thoughts or questions? All right, so I said I wanted to do a little bit more readings tonight because I've been neglecting you guys. So. Is there anyone here that does not want to be read? Are we all good?
The two people didn't, and their names are not in there.
They're not in here?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for doing that. All right, let's see who we get first.
Oh, wait, and this name should be in there.
Oh, look at it, I told you a lot of people canceled. Holy moly, that's a lot. All right. You wanna pick the first one out without looking, Victoria?
Sure.
Is that one? And the name is, let me see if I can pronounce this. Bop. What's up, AB?
How are you? Okay, what I'd like to know is, 2 ventures I'm working on, are they to come to be?
One has a greater probability than the other and almost feels inevitable. The other one, you seem to have a little bit less energy affecting the outcome. So it has a lot to do more with the group that is involved in it. And I feel, I don't feel cohesiveness in that one yet. Doesn't mean that it can't happen. But it's a matter of, sometimes a lack of cohesiveness in a group is a good thing. Because if you don't move in one direction together right away, it gives an opportunity for like spin out, that those who are undecided, they can leave, and people who are out on the outside and see what's happening, they can enter. So it gives the time for the forming of the group that's committed and focused in the same direction. That's what feels like what's going on with the second one right now. Okay, so you have to have the time. The time is necessary to let some people leave and let some people come in. Okay, so just stay true to the course for a little bit with no resistance while that stuff happens. All right? Okay. Good? You're good? Good. Oh, let's do this. Another one. Okay, I'm like always confused. Who am I? Where am I? Marie, you want to pull? Pull your own. Pull your own.
Is that one? Yeah, that's just one. There you go.
Frank. Hello. All right. So you have a an indication of what this is like, right? You ask something.
Not really. I want me to just like, I don't tell a story. I just say something. And
Yeah,
then
you just
guess
ask
it, or
like
you're
you just you guess it. You just ask a question of something you're curious about in your own life or in the world. I am intuitive. I'm a conduit to universal knowledge, so I can answer pretty much anything except where the key was, because I was looking for a key instead of a card.
Yeah.
I did find it.
Alright, so I guess I asked a question sort of about my life, I guess.
Or about mine.
That works too. Frank, Sue, Frank.
I see. I'm sure none will get picked later. So. Okay, well, I guess my question is, do I belong in Long Island?
Anyone that says in Long Island doesn't belong here.
That's always easy, huh?
Sorry, how can I resist that moment, right? Everybody in the room thought it, but I had the courage to say it.
I wasn't thinking that, Frank.
I'm the only one with a Long Island sarcastic view of things. No, I'm messing with you. You know that, right? You know me well enough to know that I'm messing
Yeah,
with you.
I know you that well.
That well. That well.
You just crossed the bridge.
Okay, the answer that I'm getting is that, yes, this is actually a really good place for you to be right now, okay?
Yay.
Yeah, it is, it's very important that you stay in areas that are really stimulating to you, that have a lot of variety and a lot of things going on, and a lot of opportunity. So I really don't see you going too rural. I don't see farming in your future. But it is about staying in places where a lot of people are doing a lot of stuff. okay? And that they're acting as individuals and they're exploring their own individual world. I can't see you being in an autonomous place. I think you would get bored out of your mind very, very quickly. One thing, and this is obviously a message because I hadn't even thought of it in these terms, but it is interesting that there's a disproportional number of people who were born and raised on Long Island that are now famous in comparison to similar populations of areas. And we're talking every gamut of fame, from writing to acting to athletics to music. So there's definitely something being cultivated here that allows for the individual expression without necessarily being encumbered by some of the shortcomings that might be in a larger city, which is the invisibility of being in a city. So sometimes you feel more alone in a city than you can feel here, all right? So the answer is that's your specific answer. Be around people that are willing to explore their individual pursuits, not needing to be one of a crowd. Don't go in a place that's too autonomous. Stay with vibrancy and variety, and I think you'll be very happy here, okay? And at least in the short run. All right? Okay. Does that help?
Yeah, I agree with that actually.
Oh. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Who would like to choose? You know, I never pick my own name out.
Second to one's name.
How right you are. Wow. And the prize goes to Anthony for getting right that it was a woman. Debbie.
You know, I knew you were gonna pick me today,
Did you?
and you've never picked me.
I
You know
haven't?
that? You've never picked
Oh,
me.
that's so rude.
And the reason I knew you were gonna pick me was because today is my mom's death anniversary. And while I was getting ready, I said, Mom, I'm ready to get picked if you, and she had this whole thing going. If you want to tell me something. So my question is,
Yeah.
does my mom have a message for me?
Oh, of course she does. But I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something else first.
Okay.
You know, sometimes when someone's talking, I'll just get a word, and I got a word, and I know it's connected to her, but she's not exactly telling me why. But this is the word. All right, and honestly, the only thing I know about that word is that I know what cornflower blue is. So I don't know what cornflower is.
Okay.
I don't know. Is it a flower? Is it?
I
have no idea.
Does anybody
But
know what
in
cornflower is?
and I don't know why she gave it because she's not telling me. But she knows how intuitive you are. So she's going to give you a message here, but she wants you to have a takeaway. It could be that it's corn and flour. It could be the color. It could be look up cornflower. But she wants you to do your own thing with this privately because she knows that you can, and she just thinks it'll be a fun little adventure for you. Okay. And aside from that, the message that I'm getting, it almost feels like it's so easy, but she's just showing me, I see like 3-dimensional hearts that are floating around. And the part that I was going to say, it seems self-apparent. Right now I see them that they're pink. Okay, and they're effervescent, and they're pretty, and they're glittery, and they're nice, and I just see these hearts floating around, like wherever you go, and in the homes of you and your loved ones. But what she's obviously letting you know is that energy of love in the female space and the females that you're connected to in every way that you know what I'm talking about. That they're always, always there. It's not there. It's not anywhere. It's not only in here even. It is literally everywhere. So every time you're walking, you're moving and touching one. So it's all around all the time, and it always will be. It's a very, very beautiful sight and a beautiful image to see. Okay? And of course, she's one of those.
Thank you.
All right. Good. Good. That was a fun one. I don't know the time. Do we have time?
Yes.
Oh, good. Good. Huh?
8:40.
Oh, wow, I might be able to get through every single one of these. Oh, poor Michelle. All right, who would like to pick? Would you like to choose?
Sure.
I want to get to someone that picks their own.
It might happen right now. No, it's not me.
Okay, who could get? Janine. Hello. I don't know you as Janine. Okay, hi Janine. You're up.
Okay. So I've been doing the same job for a pretty long time, and I do enjoy it.
All right, hold on one second. Okay, so back to you.
So I've been in my profession for a long time, and so I guess my question is, I don't feel like I'm gonna do it until the typical age that most people do it until. I feel like I'm supposed to do something else.
Okay,
So
all right. All right, what I see you in, I don't know what you do. So, but what I do see you moving toward is I definitely see you in a role of, I definitely see you in a leadership role, okay? And leadership in, I'm not talking like CEO kind of leadership. I'm talking about having a team with a common goal that's passionate, exciting, like a really vibrant mission, and pulling them together and directing them toward an achievement, okay? So I can see you eliciting the best skill set in people, helping people to feel worthy, helping people to find that they matter, helping people to make their best contribution and not detract from the whole team by feeling flawed or inadequate. But I definitely see you having this ability to do that, all right? There are sides to you that are not expressed in your job right now that are really, really dying to come out. And I almost feel like you're going to burst if you don't start letting them come out, all right? Because right now you have to keep everything under wraps and do kind of what you're supposed to be doing, and it's very repressing for you. So it's time for you to just kind of like pop out of all that and let everybody see your magnificence and your shine and all your skill sets and stuff like that. So when you're saying you don't feel like you're going to be doing this as long as someone else might, that's a really good hit to get. And the other part is, as you're shifting from one to another and the universe is going to talk to you now more clearly after hearing this. So as you're starting to contemplate where you want to go, it's important to let go of any superficial judgment about being able to have abundance or not. Abundance is self-directed and self-created. It's not what it is that you do. It's how you do it and how you think about it. So I feel like that's your only barrier, and understandably self-made barrier in the moment. But I also feel like you know enough that you can overcome that resistance and shift to something and have as much abundance. Okay?
Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I just ask one thing on that? So like, is there a way that you can just give her like, I mean, like, I know she can reflect and stuff, but is there a way to give her a focus or so, or not really?
Well, the number one, and this is something that's important to remember too with a lot of messages that you get here. Most people that come through this room one way or another, they stay in touch with me, whether they're doing coaching or they come to an occasional meeting or they go to a different seminar, or even they're just reading my essays or seeing my posts on Facebook. Most people stay in touch with me. So every conversation we have here is a part of a bigger conversation. So I don't cut you off after your answer here, and neither does the universe. So I know today they're giving you step 1, but I know step 2 and step 3 and step 4 are going to reveal themselves in time. But a lot of times guides are only going to give us the step that's the most challenging, or that we're the most resistant to at first. And once we get past that resistance, then the rest can flow much more easily. I don't think I've ever stated it like that before, but it really is an important part of any message I give, to understand that this is step 1, okay? Like I did a session with a woman today, she's probably 35, 40 years old, and I get on the phone with her and wow, I think I got 10 hits the second I got on the phone with her, and I'm like, there's a lot to unravel in this girl's life. There is a lot going on here. But we have 1 hour. This is her first session. How much are the guides going to be able to share with her in a meaningful way that she can make shifts in her perceptions? They can't give her all that at one time, but what they can do is they can try to give her an overview and hope, and then give her small doable steps that are going to put her in that right path. And then when she sees the success from those choices, she'll get more excited about learning more and peeling off more masks and layers. Do you follow me? That's how it works. No one is who exactly they want to be in the first day of understanding their own power. It's a process to undo all the stuff that happened before we got to that moment. All right? But it was a very good question. Thank you. And that's one of the reasons why I did add the universe is going to show you things too. So they're not leaving you alone. You're not out there by yourself now. Now you actually have more opportunity to know that the guidance is visible. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Good. There was something. Oh, I know. Someone help me with the time.
28.
Okay. All right. So one thing I kept popping up tonight is like I couldn't stop getting it from your guides, but they never like really brought it up as a topic. So I'll try to do it really quickly because I still want to read more people. But there's a word. It's a really interesting word. And when we're talking about the illusion of creating our reality here, what it is that what we project, the energies that we assign to what we're putting out there have a major effect on the echo that we receive back. A major effect, okay? And our perception of risk is one of those factors that greatly affects the outcome of everything that it is that we do, okay? And we live in a world, the same way we encourage fear and sickness in one another, we hugely encourage each other to constantly be in a state of assessing risk. All right? It takes time to blast through that. I mean, obviously you could say I didn't think I was in risk by using the mulcher without protective eyewear on. I might under-assess risk, but I think I really, I think I do a pretty good job of it. I don't get bogged down with risk as being a decider in my life. But in this world, risk determines, the perception of risk determines so much of what we do and do not do. And it's up to you to opt out of those perceptions with persistence, with dedication. Keep turning over sentences where you think there's risk and say the opposite, okay? So an example would be, well, I'm now an attorney, but I want to be a guitar player, but I can't do that because guitar players don't make any money and attorneys do. Well, what you're doing is you're, in your mind, you are assessing your perception of risk from going from law to being a musician. And what's saddled in there is a million different messages that you got from a million different people who've agreed to this equation, right? But you can opt out. You don't have to stay in it, but you have to start telling yourself to the point of it being believable that I know that I can receive the same quality of abundance and lifestyle through my guitar playing as I had with the law. And I know that the passion and the success that I feel and how stimulating that is to me will bring in even more abundance because I'm going to feel joyful and happy every day when I get out of bed. All right, so that's a big example, but most examples really aren't that big. You just have to overturn it a little bit, overturn it a little bit, overturn it a little bit, okay? Years ago, a little kid was, you have a bus stop, like you stand, it's not like a stop sign, it's like in the middle of a road and you stand on like the cement thing where the water would drain, right? So my mother-in-law's property has this cement thing where all the kids have the bus stop, and this one kid just would always walk on her property when he was waiting for the bus, and she had an antique piece of wood, something, like right in the middle of her lawn, nowhere near the cement thing, nowhere near the street. And he played on it, stood on it. It collapsed because it was an antique, and he injured himself. He got a couple of decent injuries. So she was newly widowed, and she got hit with a lawsuit from the parents for his injuries. Okay. Now, mind you, they had insurance. They had medical insurance, but they were suing her homeowners for who knows what. So every now and then things will get me fired up. I'm very relatively calm, but this was a while ago, and that really got me fired up. Well, every protective cell in my body came to the surface, and I did something I never dreamed I could do. I didn't know the people, so I had to cross-reference their address to their name. I had to cross-reference their name to their phone number. I had to call and speak to the homeowner, none of which I wanted to do. So I did it. I got him agree to see me. And then, unfortunately, I had to wait a few days. Who wants that on their plate for a few days, right? So then I went and I saw him, and I went to his house. And I get there, and his wife and 2 kids, including the injured kid, I guess they must have been instructed to leave the room when I get there. But I think he didn't know what to expect from me. So they leave the room, but I can hear them sitting on the steps, listening to everything we were saying. It was so awkward. You could hear the steps squeaking and all this. So now I'm here, and long story short, I just explained, I was trying to help him understand her position, that her homeowners would not be able to be of value because her deductible was so high. It would all come out of her pocket. And I did say she's newly widowed, and unfortunately her husband didn't leave her financially prepared to, have this house and these, responsibilities. So I wanted him to understand at least what my motivation was in being there. But I actually felt that it was irrelevant, those things that I told him. So as we're talking, he was starting to get a little angry because he could see I was trying to get him to withdraw the lawsuit, right? So he gets a little angry, and he says to me, he said, listen, so many people have told me that I have to sue. So many people told me to do it. Everybody told me to do it. And right there, I knew what my role was, I had a powerful moment of intuition. And I said, you know what? I said, you're right. You're absolutely right. I said, we could line up 100 people, and 100 people are going to tell you to sue. But in your heart, is that the right thing to do? Is this the message to give to your son? Is this the message to give to yourself or your wife or your daughter? Is this the man that you are? Or did your son go onto her property and play with something that there should have maybe been an adult directing him about honoring someone else's property in their space? This is a good opportunity for you to use this as a teaching moment with your kids about respect and friendship and neighborliness and kindness, And when I said that, his face went stone cold, and I thought I had a bona fide enemy for life. And he just said, I think you should go now. And I got up and I left. So I had 3 or 4 more days of, I felt like I had a rapid heartbeat for all this time. And finally, it took forever. She finally got a letter in the mail that the lawsuit was withdrawn. Well, he never spoke to me again, and we're not friends. But it was just interesting because I had to turn it around. Just because we're all doing it doesn't mean it's right. Just because we're all doing it doesn't mean it's coming from a place of honor. Just because we're all doing it doesn't mean that you should feel good about doing it too, right? If we all just live our lives and take care of our space and our place and our choices, then we will live more harmoniously together without other people having to assume risk for your choices. You assume risk for your choices. That's okay, If you let somebody play on somebody's antique toy on their yard and your child breaks his arm and gets some wood in his arm, that's your collective choices. It had nothing to do with the person that the toy belonged to, right? The other night I like to go down to the beach and walk the beach a lot. And I went down to the beach, and I like to watch the changes in seasons. I just really love that. Sometimes I even count how many people are there with me, and it gets less and less and less, and I really have a lot of joy in that. And this one night, I get down there a couple of days ago, and they now have the big signs up, you know, swimming prohibited, no swimming, and the signs are like all over the place, like, you know, literal pollution, you know, visual pollution all over the place. And my view is, I got into this mode like, F you! You own this water? You own me? You have the right to tell me I can't swim? I swear if that water were warm, I would have taken my clothes off and gone for a swim right then. And I would have done it in front of the sign and asked someone to take a picture of me, okay? Because we're living in such a silly way, right? Well, they're afraid it's a state park. They're afraid you're going to sue if someone drowns. Come on, you go in the water, you're responsible for what happens in the water. I'm not responsible for what happens to you in the water. If you're caught in a tidal wave or tide pool, whatever those things are called, if you're caught and I see you, great, I'm going to do my best to get you out of there, right? But water's all over the earth. You swim in it, you fall in it, you get in there, you drown, you don't drown, you have fun, you don't have fun, you think about the weather, you think about the waves, you do think about it, you don't think about it. It's on you! You think about it, you do it, right? So sometimes, like I said, knowing a lot, when you bump into a little sign like that, it's like, oh man, I have so much work to do on this earth. I got to start somewhere. But I'm going to ask people to stop thinking in terms of risk all the time. Yeah. Just go out there and live. You know, just go out there and live. Go out there and live. And assess your own level of being smart, not afraid, but being smart. If I had put protective eyewear on, I'm going to say that that's smart, not afraid. Okay? Everyone see the difference? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like even putting on your seatbelt. I know we're required by law to put our seatbelt on, but I do feel like that's smart and not afraid. It's a sensible thing to do. Just put it on. There's some things that are just sensible. They're reasonable. All right? Okay, so do we have time for another?
8:59, yes.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. All right, who wants to pick? Michelle?
Not me.
Marie!
Oh.
Hi there.
Hi. The job.
What job?
Yeah, right, what job, exactly. The one I'm supposed to be getting.
Wow, that sounded appealing.
Yeah. I don't know.
Are you well,
I don't know, where to look, where to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
I know that the one thing that I had gotten before was that doing the whole, full-time job of something that you're not loving, and that's not what I see in the equation coming up for you. I do see you in something that's a part-time opportunity, not necessarily just about the money, but because having a constant flow with people in a scheduled pattern is actually quite good for you, okay?
Right.
Keeping to that schedule. So I see that as a part of it, but then I see the other aspects of abundance coming from all of your creative pursuits, which are just amazing. And, I know it's not necessarily easy to figure out how to earn from the things that it is that you do, but you have really great contacts, Marie, and you have a great network, a phenomenal network. So when you're talking to this person and talking to that person, you might be saying, what do you think I should do with this? Or do you have any idea about that? And before you know it, more good ideas are coming, okay? Mm-hmm. So tap into the collective that's around you. Everybody adores you. They adore the things that you make. They adore your creative expression and would love to see you have increasing abundance and success with it. So they're more than willing to come up with creative ideas and solutions for you. Mm-hmm. So I do see it as a piece. I see one piece as part-time work, and then I see two pieces as creative endeavors. Okay?
With the part-time work, though, that's what I'm wondering about.
Yeah.
Because I gotta be happy there too.
I know you do. I know you do. One
I'm
thing,
not sure.
I'm gonna sound like a HR director here for a second, and I really don't mean to, but from a practical perspective at this moment, one thing you wanna do is write down all of the tasks that you did at the company before
Right.
they closed,
Mhm.
and write them down, and then look at that list and be very, very generous, of course, with everything that it is that you did. Then look at that list and start to number them in priority order from the most joy to the least joy. Because what can happen from that, if you have 30 things on the list and then you look at what the top 10 is, those 10 will help to give you a story or an equation of where to look for your next job, the ones that highlight and accentuate those and diminish some of them that aren't as interesting to you. All right?
Okay.
And you do have such an enormous number of skill sets. I don't think that fitting in those top 10 at a huge variety of places is going to be difficult at all.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of having the confidence to know that you have those skill sets and go tell someone else that they're better off with you than without you.
Mhm.
Okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, definitely. Because I don't want you to go only from sneakers to sneakers in your idea, because you're
Yeah,
far
'cause that's what I'm
vaster than
thinking
that.
it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's not.
It's funny that person, I didn't get a call from.
Okay, yeah,
So
I don't
thought,
really
well,
see
I don't
that
think I'm
being.
supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not from sneakers to sneakers.
Okay, that was
Okay?
one thing I was curious about.
All right. All right, good. All right, so I think that we're good on time now. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here. Next month is our last month with this specific topic of exploration of the soul. I will tell you and give you the advance heads up that the Year Before Us seminar in January, which I have the Year Before Us seminar every year, it is scheduled for January 27th, which is the weekend when there's no football. That's always the best way to remember it. Football this weekend, and it is that Saturday. I typically will do it from 1 to 4 because we do have people that come from out of state for the seminar, so we like to give them travel time before and after so it doesn't feel like too much pressure. But I will tell you that I've been mentioning this for quite a while now, that there's an increasing accelerated benefit in focusing on the energy of why we're here and how it's affecting us. So I do feel like this is going to be probably one of the most important Year Before Us's I've ever given so far. And so just mark your calendar because I'm already getting messages about it. And as everybody knows, I generally don't get any messages about the Year Before Us until I'm standing there in front of you. So the fact that I'm getting previews on it already means that it is significant, and it'll be great value for you to be there and listen to the things that the guides are saying about the year 2018 and how you can work with that energy to flow in your benefit rather than working against it by not knowing what's happening. Okay? I gave an analogy the other day that I like, it works. But if you imagine I had like a tremendous windstorm come through this room, all right? If you are in the know, if you are intending to grow, get closer to the vibration of love, understand yourself, understand the meaning of life, you don't have to be all there, right? But if you're in the lane of intention, of making discoveries and becoming happier and assisting others. If you're just simply in that lane, when this wind force blows through, everyone's going to get blown over that's not in the lane, and you're just going to sit there and watch. Because it's absolutely fascinating how powerful the energy of enlightenment protects you from the chaos that other people experience. And that's fundamentally why I'm getting so many messages about the importance of the 2018 Year Before Us seminar. Because we want you guys to be having the protective device on you, the protective coat that's going to help you from being affected by the chaos that's going on around us. This is not an apocalyptic message by any means. you just have to be awake and alive to see that chaos is growing outside of us. If you breathe and you live, you see it. If you don't want to be in it, but you want to gain the benefit of being witness to it and helping those that don't necessarily understand it, come into the inside of the knowingness, okay? Think of it as like a secret key, a secret passage. You don't have to build a bunker. All you have to do is be in that lane of intention. Got it? Okay, good. All right, so everybody have a fantastic, abundant Thanksgiving, rest of the month of November. Don't forget to read the essays, because I think they will be helpful. This month, I think, was the most elementary. I think they're going to get a little bit more heavy, but they're still interesting. So don't forget to read these essays for like the next 5 months as well.
I don't think I got it in my email.
Oh, you did?